What's up, everyone? Happy Tuesday afternoon. We're 23 days away from NFL season, otherwise known as Devin Hester and Arian Foster days away. So, of course, we've got to do some previews today. We've got the AFC preview tomorrow, the NFC preview, both at 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get to it. We got win totals to cover. We got favorite props. We've got division winners, all AFC related. It's going to be with Danny Brasco, Emory Hunt, and Mike McClure. Gentlemen, a lot to cover. Very excited. The chat is very excited. We got Larry Hartstein, the maestro, in there as well. I think we should just get started with the win totals. Let's start there. And Mike McClure, I'm going to start with you. Give me your favorite win total over.
I like the Buffalo Bills over the big number of 11.5. Look, if there's any, well, there's two teams really that know this, but if there's truly a team that understands the importance of having home field advantage in the playoffs, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. And looking at what they've run into year after year, and most specifically with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think there's a big emphasis on Buffalo going after that number one seed. They have a softer division on paper and in theory in the AFC East this season. I think they comfortably win that division. And in doing that, I think, again, they have this big focused effort on the regular season, the ability to go out there, potentially grab that number one seed. I like Kansas City a little bit still, but I think it could be somewhat of a down year. Their schedule is very, very difficult. So I like the Buffalo Bills in the regular season a lot. I think this is a 13 or even as many as 14 wins on the regular season for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so we could be looking at alt wins there too. Larry Hartstein in the chat says Jeff Hockman seconds this motion. He put a long analysis in the SportsLine Discord. If you're a SportsLine member, of course, you've got access for free to the SportsLine Discord. Danny, I have to go to you next because I remember on the early edge you liking that Bills play. So let me know if you still endorse that, and then talk to me about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Absolutely. I would even recommend, if there's some juice on it, like I see some people talking about in the chat, I'm comfortable with an over 12.5. Mike mentioned he sees this as a 13 or 14 win team. I have them finishing at 13-4. I think the schedule is a cakewalk for them, and they could absolutely walk towards maybe that number one seed. The roster looks excellent. I think they have all the pieces to be a top tier team. So I like them to win 13 games. I'm with Mike on that play 100%. And my next play is going to be, my favorite win total is actually a bet that, as I was going through my notes today, going mad scientist on my whiteboard, I really sold myself on, and I'm going to boldly take this bet, maybe for multiple units. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars over 7.5 wins. I think they can win 8 games with Liam Cohen at the helm now. You take a look at what this guy did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the weapons of Baker Mayfield, Godwin, Bucky Irving, and Mike Evans. They were a truly dynamic offense. That's not too dissimilar here to a Brian Thomas Jr., Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and Travis Hunter, a guy that may potentially have Deion Sanders-esque ability. That's his ceiling we're hoping for, right? But you add that to a wide receiver core, I think this offense could look really good. I know a lot of people might be down on them, but I see big improvements with Liam Cohen at the helm. He's a really dynamic offensive coordinator. And more than that, even, is the defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanile, who is making me ready to run through a wall, Sia. This guy has got Dan Campbell energy. He's incredible. The players are buying in. He's talking about imagining people running away with all your worldly possessions, your children, your wife. Imagine everything you ever loved. How in the world is that man going to get away from you? It's not possible. This guy is making me want to just go through the camera right now, Sia. And it looks like Eric Armstead and Trayvon Walker, this defensive line, a lot of these players are buying in. I think you're going to see a big improvement in the defense. Yeah, the secondary was a leaky faucet, but they added Jordan Lewis. They added safety Eric Murray. I see some improvements there. And I think this team can go get 8 wins and compete in an AFC South that's the weakest division in the conference. So give me the Jaguars to be much improved under Liam Cohen.
It's a reasonable win total. Joe Neuenfeld in the chat pointing out that I'm pretty down on the Jags. I will not take a showdown, but you did lose me when you made that Deion Sanders comp with Travis Hunter. Let's just relax a little bit. Emory Hunt, you're very close to Giants camp. You're very close to Jets camp. And you're seeing something with the Jets. Talk to me about a very big plus money play on the Jets win total.
Yeah, I have them going over 7.5 wins. And listen to me now, but leave me later on. When you look at this Jets win total, I think in July it was 5.5. If you still find it at close value or plus money, take that. Take over 6.5. Definitely take over 7.5. Take over 8.5. You can really maximize this bet here with this team. This is a 9 and or 10 win football team. So you got a lot of wiggle room to rack up wins betting for the Jets, because the Jets, to me, are built well on both sides of the line of scrimmage. This is a very good team. Their quarterback room is excellent. Their running back room is excellent. They have 2 good tight ends. They have 1 elite receiver. Maybe the other position at receiver is still, work in progress. They're going to cycle through some guys to see who can show up. But defensively, run game, tight ends, quarterback play, this is going to be a problem for a lot of teams in the NFL, and they have the right intensity. This showed up in the preseason game, albeit a little bit too over-aggressive, but it definitely showed up at practice. I was just at Jets-Giants joint practice today, and listen, when I say the Jets are serious, they look like a professional football team, 7.5 might be too low. And again, this was 5.5 earlier in the summer. So rack up on these wins, and maybe you could bet on the side exactly 9 wins or exactly 10 wins, but don't go over 8.5. But don't go over 9.5, but take 5.5 to 8 over 8.5, and you could rack up some coin against the Jets.
We are laddering the Jets potentially up to 9.5 wins, but this 7.5 is plus 220. And Mike, I seem to recall on the Early Edge Morning Show just yesterday, I believe, we were talking about the Jets. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had some good stuff to say about the Jets as well.
Definitely have some good things to say about the Jets. Had to wear a little jet green here. I love this play and laddering it up, but I really love the 5.5. I think 6 is the floor for this team this season. But I think the most fascinating thing is just the perception in the market, right? Like a year ago, we were talking about the Jets win total at 9.5. Everyone anxious to go over because we had them projected to be favored in 13 games, right? The roster is better, the schedule is softer, and the win total goes from 9.5 to 5.5. I think it's hit rock bottom on the Jets team. I think they win 6, 7, or 8 games, but 5.5 wins is still currently available at minus 135. That is appealing to me when you see some of the names on this schedule. I think that you see the Saints on there. And you talk about the what was the other one I was pointing out? Just the Panthers. Like there's a couple of games in here that I think that they win easily. And what I was saying the other day on the Early Edge, Sia, they're going to win outright in week 1 as a 3-point home dog to the Steelers. Set this tone right here. So yes, I am very optimistic on the Jets here.
Emory, can I ask you about that? Because we see that line, the Steelers visiting the Jets week 1, which, by the way, again, is only 23 days away from Thursday night football. But what does that mean? 26 days away from watching these week 1 games on a Sunday. Steelers go into New York. They're 2.5-point favorites, 3-point favorites in some places, but let's call it 2.5. Would you lean to your Jets there?
Definitely take the Jets. And I'm with Mike. I laid that out earlier. Fields is right now a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers at this juncture of his career. And when you think about Justin Fields, think about this. Aaron Glenn coached against him multiple times. And his first move when he became a head coach, go get Justin Fields. There's a reason why he did that. And so that tells you all you need to know about what they feel about Justin Fields, we have to do a better, I say we collectively in the media have to do a better job of identifying where the issue is. When you watch the Bears game, you never got the point that Justin Fields was the reason why they lost games. It was a lack of talent around Justin Fields. This is a good football team around him, a good ecosystem, and we're going to see the best of Justin Fields. People just think he's a runner. We didn't know he could run until he got to the NFL because he didn't do it at Ohio State. You know what I'm saying? He was a vertical downfield passer. Just so happens he's a great athlete. So when you think about him and the temperament of playing in New York, with this team that's going to win complementary football in terms of run game, play good defense. Right now in Pittsburgh, there's a lot of questions about the receiving core, the offense, how it's going to gel. They're aging in certain spots. This is the right time to play Pittsburgh if you are the New York Jets.
Yeah, I recall yesterday as well on that Early Edge Morning Show that Prop Stars had taken Aaron Rodgers touchdown passing unders, which I believe, if memory serves, was 23.5. I'm trying to I'm trying to take all kinds of picks and just fit them into this show that I recall. And even my pick, my favorite win total over at minus 105 is the Broncos. I gave that out on the Early Edge a few weeks ago. I think it was a plus number. Now it's minus 105 either way. I'm not going to go into, because I want the show to flow a little bit, I'm not going to go into the explanation. I do love the Broncos. Maybe they'll come up later on in the show. There's a lot of people putting their bets in the chat as well, which I love to see. Let's go favorite win total under. Brasco, this time I start with you.
All right, so we're going against something that's happened for 18 years in a row. That's called trying to catch a falling knife. But I think the 17-game season will be Mike Tomlin's undoing for that 500 streak, Sia. And I'm going with the Steelers to go under 8.5 wins at -105. I think this is the year where it finally happens. I'm calling this the gap year. It's sort of like a college graduate who doesn't quite know what they want to do with their career, so they go to Barcelona for 6 months and go find themselves. Like you're adding ayahuasca Aaron Rodgers in here, who's getting a 1-year contract that is, adding to an Arthur Smith offense that I don't think is going to automatically just become high flying because they add DK Metcalf. Sia, you, myself, and Proppy were talking about Metcalf at length on some of these early edge morning shows. And as athletic and dominant as he can be, he's not necessarily the most skilled wide receiver. So you make him the guy, the wide receiver one. I don't know if he goes and catches you 12 touchdowns in an Arthur Smith offense that's super methodical and just grinding. So this defense looks loaded up. They're really going to have to lean on them. I like all the additions. I mean, there's a lot of names on there that can get after the quarterback, that can, make plays in the backfield. And I think they're really going to have to lean on them. The defense alone can muscle out some wins. But at the end of the day, they're in a vaunted AFC North, aside from the Browns, and they have some tough teams to face on that schedule. They got to take on the Bills. They got to take on the Ravens. They see the Bengals offense twice. Whatever you think of their defense, that's one of the toughest offenses to stop in the league. The Packers are on there. The Seahawks are not going to be pushovers either. So I'm just not finding 9 wins on the schedule, Sia, and I think they're going to go maybe 8-9 at best. I'm saying this is Tomlin's undoing season, and after the 1 year with Rodgers, they'll refine who this team really is supposed to be. But this year won't go so well.
Yeah, I think much like last year, if you remember the Steelers schedule last year, and we have the schedules up on the screen here, thanks to Ben. Really good stuff. If you're listening to the podcast, thanks for listening. But just know that on the SportsLine YouTube channel, we're putting up the graphics as well. They go to New York, like we talked about. It sounds like this panel likes the Jets. I actually lean to the Steelers in that game, but I don't know that I'm actually putting money on it. They play the Seahawks at home, then they're at the Patriots. They get the Vikings. We'll see what the J.J. McCarthy experience is like, a bye week, and then the Browns. If they can go 4-2 somehow there or something like that, it could propel them. But again, just like last year, the back half of their schedule is absolutely brutal. So we'll just see how it goes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, I think they need to attack early if they're going to be any good this season. Emory, a team that a lot of people think are going to be good this season, a team that a lot of people think are going to make a huge jump. I'm not one of them necessarily, but a lot of people are talking about the New England Patriots. You're going the other way. We like the under on them of 8.5 wins.
Yeah, I think 8 might actually be the number. The reason why I have concerns about the Patriots, nothing to do with their defense. Defense is going to be excellent. They'll be able to run the football. It's the passing game that concerns me. And the reason why, do you really fear Stephon Diggs at this juncture of his career? And outside of him, who else scares you on that offensive in terms of the passing game that's a threat? So they still have to get better at receiver, in my opinion, in order for the true offense to really show itself. And even right now, like Drake May has shown he's more comfortable taking off and running as opposed to really going through progressions and working the passing game. And he has to protect the football a little bit more. I think you could be improved without being a playoff team. So we saw this team go from 3 wins last year, 4 wins. They can get 8 for sure, because with the run game and the defense, they'll be in a lot of ball games. So I just feel like they don't have the threats on the perimeter just yet. Stephon Diggs could be a solid option right now at this juncture of his career, but outside of him, and this is not disrespect, who else scares you on the perimeter in that receiving core?
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people look at the Patriots upgrades, and they also look at the schedule. I will say this, that from week 6 through week 9, those are like very winnable games where that, like, if they can win 3 out, again, that's against the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, and the Falcons. Like, what a great stretch for them. But if they can win 3 out of those 4, I think they're in pretty good shape to flirt with 9. But again, that's just a 4-game stretch. There's certainly some tough games in there as well. All right, Mike. Talk to me about this is interesting because I do like the Houston Texans by process of elimination to win the AFC South, but you're looking at the Texans under 9.5 wins.
Yeah, I think this could be a 9-win team. And I know there will be a lot of differing opinions here. And look, I will be the first to tell you that I think that there's a chance they could run away with this division and win 12 games. but the schedule is difficult. And some of these games come at a very interesting time. And again, this is all a team that I think could struggle with keeping everyone healthy. We've seen it in the past. I think it could happen again in some of these matchups. But when I look at the schedule, first of all, in non-division games, 7 of those come against teams that were in the playoffs last year. Teams that I want to highlight that they have to play this year, though, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. They play the AFC West this year. I think a lot of people are either on the Broncos or on the Chargers, but there's some very strong agreement that the AFC West in general is getting 2 playoff teams this year. So just looking up and down this schedule, I mean, look, at the Rams week 1, the Bucks in primetime in week 2, right into the divisional matchup. Sure, they're going to lose that game at the Ravens most likely. They catch the early bye, which can be a good thing at times, but it's a long second half of the season without a bye, without a week off there. Seeing the 49ers here, though, and then Bills at Chiefs, late in the season at Chargers, just to me, they have to go nearly perfect in division to get there, right? They have to win all of the games they're supposed to in division to get to this number. And I don't think that's going to happen here. So I would love an exacta if you want to play an exacta of 9 wins. Like, I'm very confident this team wins 8 games. I think there's a huge difference between 8 and 10, though, for this schedule.
Mike, do you have any thought on, regardless of this win total, on where the value is in the AFC South? I mean, I can't remember what BetMGM had it at last, but obviously the Texans are the favorite, and you got teams like the Colts and the Jags at like that plus 300 number. Again, by process of elimination, I still stick with the Texans here at minus 105. Colts plus 375. That's a pretty big number, and of course the Titans trailing. Any thoughts on this division?
I hate this division. I don't want to pick a winner in this division. I want nothing to do with it. The Texans should be the favorite. There's no doubt. I would not make them minus 105. They would be around minus 140. I would have the Jaguars around plus 260. And I think the order is listed here is correct. Having said that, I don't think that the Texans should be minus 105 here in this division.
Let's go around the horn real quick. I'll hold everybody's feet to the fire. I would take the Texans minus 105, although I would look for a better number if I could find it. Emory, if you had to bet one of these 4, who would it be?
Probably Texans. If you could promise me 17 games in Anthony Richardson, I'd take the Colts because they have a really good team, but you have to go with the best quarterback in the division, and that's right now the Houston Texans quarterback, C.J. Stroud.
Colts would be my second bet here. I love this number, plus 375. I'd still be on the Texans. Danny, who would you take here if you had to make a bet?
If I had to, I am making this bet. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars, see a plus 310. I honestly think that the AFC South could cannibalize itself and ends up being more competitive than just a runaway Texans seasons. Maybe there's a world where they go 4-2 in division. And then you're looking at look at weeks 12 through 18 for the Jaguars, the way they end that season. Cardinals, Titans, Colts, Jets. Broncos is tough in there, but Colts, Titans again. So you get 4 of the in-division games in the back half of the season. Maybe those are games that they can win. And they see the Panthers week 1. They see the Raiders week 9 out of their bye. I think this is a schedule they can get through. And again, I'm betting on a much improved defense with Anthony Campanile just firing these guys up and bringing that Dan Campbell energy. I think this team is being a little bit slept on. And Mike mentioned the injury concerns for the Texans. That's also part of this handicap, is that Joe Mixon, the workhorse that he is, has struggled with his ankle, and we'll see where that is. Can they rely on him to get 25 carries a game and be that guy again? You know, C.J. Stroud lost Laramie Tunsil, his best offensive lineman. That offensive line was already under duress a lot last season. What if he's taking a lot more hits and pressure? I wonder how they hold up here. So I don't think the Texans are necessarily the deserving front runner. I think they could be a paper tiger, Sia.
Well, I concede we did jump the gun a little bit on this AFC South winner odds because we will cover every single division later on in the show. That's some win total stuff. Let's get to our favorite props. How about a favorite AFC quarterback prop? Emory, I go to you first.
Geno Smith over 20.5 touchdown passes. I feel like this is criminally low with the way he has the ability to go touchdown to check down, throws the ball deep down the field really well, has some great options in the passing game, Brock Bowers being one of them. And the fact that they can get the running backs involved in the passing game as well. I think 25 for Geno is pretty doggone good. And I feel like 20.5 is a little bit disrespectful.
I agree. That seems really low. And it's Jacoby Myers can catch some touchdown passes too. Brock, Jacoby, and the rest of the cast there. I know they're going to run the ball a lot, but I think that's very low. I love the even money on it. Mike, we go to you.
Muted for a second. Sorry, guys. Patrick Mahomes. Let's talk about the guy. I think we all know that he's one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. His number is set at 4,500. You know how many times he's gone under that number in his career? Once. Last season at 39.28. One time.
Wow.
He's been over 5,000 more times than he's been under 4,000 in his career. Wow. I personally think that the Chiefs are not as dominant this season. And if they're not as dominant this season and they're not taking 8 to 10-minute drives to end a third quarter or start a fourth quarter, the ball is going to be in Patrick Mahomes' hands, period, right? So more competitive games that they frankly lose are going to be better for his passing production than the dominance that we've seen from them over the years. If he stays healthy and plays 16 games, that's all I need. 16 games here, which you know he's probably going to because of the way the schedule sets up for them. This number is off by probably a full game, probably 300 yards off, right? So when I look at this setup for Patrick Mahomes, no clear number one. Travis Kelce has taken a little bit of a step back. It's just everything's even there. I think they find themselves in more neutral or trailing games than they ever have with Mahomes under center. And that's only going to mean one thing: more passing attempts, more passing yardage. Love this number for Mahomes. It is off by truly a full game.
They also had no continuity with the wide receivers because they were injured. And I know Rashee Rice is, probably got a suspension coming. I don't know, 4 or 6 games. I don't think that's been announced yet, but I suspect there's going to be way more continuity just with the health of these receivers. I think that's something going for Patrick Mahomes as well. Let's go from one great quarterback to another. I mean, Danny, I love this play because when it comes to the Bengals, the only way they can compete is by just going berserk like they did last year with the offense.
Shoot or shoot, Sia. And they're going to have to get in some shootouts here. I mean, like you said, they didn't really address the defense. I'm a little bit worried. Like Lou Anarumo, great defensive coordinator, he was lost out there with the pieces he had. And they've lost Sam Hubbard. They lost Sheldon Rankins, Trey Hendrickson still in doubt. So this is going to be, you're going to have to drop 35 points and beat teams that way, because I don't think they're going to be able to stop many teams. And I love the way that Mike characterized the Patrick Mahomes play. It's the same here, right? Losing game scripts benefit us for over pass yards. We're going to air it out. And quite frankly, if we avoid injury, I think this might be free money. I might make a bet on this because in 3 out of the past 4 years, he's soared over this number. The 1 year he went down with injury, but he had over 4,900 pass yards last season. He's got 4,475 3 years ago, excuse me. This is easy work with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase re-signed, ready to go. Come on now, Joey B.
I mean, this is part of the reason I'm so in love with, and I'm not a big awards market guy, but Jamar Chase at plus 900 or plus 1,000 to be Offensive Player of the Year. 1,700 yards last year, 17 touchdowns, led in targets, led in receptions, led in yards after the catch. And you're bringing everybody back. And it's the same game script that it was last year because you don't have a defense. It just, I like it all things, from a award standpoint, but also from a prop standpoint. I like all things Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, I would even include T. Higgins in that mix to some degree. Joe Neuenfeld says, I like free money. Let's try to get some free money with our favorite AFC wide receiver or running back prop. This time, Mike, I start with you.
All right. Ashton Genty. Kid is phenomenal. He is absolutely incredible. I'm still going under. It's 1,075.5 rushing yards on a team that might find themselves in some competitive games, but the average game, they're going to be trailing late. They're going to be trying to throw the football. I don't think he's going to see enough touches. And if they're out of contention, I certainly don't think they're going to try and get him hurt late in the season. So for me personally, I think this number, it's just one that I use this phrase often, especially when you get to situations like this. I will simply pay to find out. Like, can he go out there and have 1,100 yards in the rookie season on a losing team that's going to be trailing in a lot of their games? Like, I don't know that it's going to happen, right? Like, I think he may have more, he may go over on his touchdowns. He may go over on rushing attempts week in and week out, but yardage, talking about efficiency behind this team in this situation on that schedule, to me, I'm paying to find out here because I look, he's getting a ton of respect and it's well-deserved. And look, like, for comparison, we saw Bucky Irving. I'm trying to find other running backs that are just like like Breece Hall, I know he's in a timeshare there. Breece Hall's number is over 200 yards less than Ashton Genty.
Wow.
Like just crazy, crazy stuff here, right? No disrespect to him. He's phenomenal. I don't see it yet, right? So he's got the same number as Jahmyr Gibbs. I'll wait and see. I'll wait and find out here. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I'd love to get the guys' thoughts on it if we have time, because he's a polarizing player, and I know how good he is, and he has the ability to make me look silly, because he will routinely go over this throughout his career later on. I just don't know that I see it in the rookie campaign.
Emory, I want to get your response to this. I mean, I will say this in favor of this bet, like, and this is not to put any offense on like the casual bettors out there, but anybody that's like relatively new to betting is going to be like, oh, Ashton Genty, he's going to be amazing. I don't care what the number is. I'm going to take his over. That doesn't mean that's not going to cash necessarily, but it does feel like taking the under is the sharp play here.
Well, here's the difference between Gibbs and Genty, and which makes Gibbs' number even more egregious at it being what it is. Gibbs doesn't need volume. Genty, I feel like, is a back that needs 15 to 20 carries to really get revved up. Gibbs can go over 100 yards in 9 carries. And you know what I'm saying? The more you give him, you kind of want to give him the ball more, because you know he has more the propensity to break the long run. I could see Genty getting over 1,000 yards, but to Mike's point, you know, 1,050 helps you cash his bet. And you know, 17 games, when it was 16 games, it was 65 yards a game to get you 1,000. I still think he can go over this number, but I'm not mad at Mike saying that he can go under, because again, you can have 1,025, 1,050 and still, you know, go under this number. But the fact that his number is the same as Jahmyr Gibbs is even more egregious than anything.
Brasco, your thoughts on this?
I love these shows because as we're chopping it up and throwing stuff at the board, like I get convinced, right? And I love this take from both Emory and Mike. I'm going to bet on this because number one, he's right. I mean, look at the comps to the numbers of some of these elite running backs there. It seems like an overvalued number because of the name. And then also just a little bit vibes. You saw one of those preseason carries. He just got stopped behind the line immediately. And I thought to myself, you know, there's no guarantees this guy just starts bowling through everyone in the NFL. In fact, he has a target on his back. He's already got the name. Gene T, he's a guy that just runs through people. Like, NFL linebackers might take that as disrespect before week one and say, you know what, let's go after this guy. So maybe there's a world where he gets bottled up. And I really like how Emory talked about how he revs up. It's kind of like a fighter that needs to get hit before he knows he's in a fight. Like he needs a few of those tough carries and then he starts breaking tackles. Then he starts really getting going. But Mike talked about the negative game scripts. What if he doesn't have a chance to get going? What if he can't get to 17 to 20 carries? I'm with these guys on this. I lean to the under. I think I'm going to bet it too.
Well, that's what's interesting too, is the negative game script part of this. And it's part of the reason I love the Geno Smith over 20.5 touchdowns at even money that Emory just gave out, because again, you can't just go on game script. They're going to be in a lot of games through 3 quarters for sure. But there are those situations where it's not going to be a neutral game script necessarily. It's going to be a negative one and he gets boxed out. And also their offensive line isn't like an elite offensive line necessarily either. Mike, follow up.
Yeah, I posted in the chat just where he's at related to others. His prop is higher than Josh Jacobs, same as Gibbs, more than Kyron Williams, 125 yards more than Christian McCaffrey, which we know McCaffrey is involved in the passing game. And a lot of the comments I see from Joe here, dang, that's a lot of guys with low numbers. It's right. You're right. They are low numbers. What it should highlight is just how hard it is to play 17 games as a running back in the National Football League. Like it's a position that just gets absolutely beat up. And when you look at some of these numbers, like you're used to seeing Saquon go out there over 2,000 yards, right? Like, of course he's going to blow through his 1,400. Like it's so difficult to stay healthy in this league, touching the football that many times, taking the hits that they do. I don't know that I see him staying healthy, number one, or two, them putting him in a position if they truly believe he is an elite running back and they're out of contention late. Like, I don't know. We do this all the time with wide receivers as well going under. I would bet if you took the top 6 running backs, which Genty is number 3 or 4 already coming into the season. If you took the under on all of them, I would venture to say you're going to be profitable.
I will say, jump in here right quick and say this too. And the reason why Genty's number is what it is, and probably is another reason why it gives Mike trepidation, and also probably why it's the same number essentially as Gibbs, is the quarterback. You don't think of Geno Smith or Goff being a threat to the backside defender. So when you don't have that threat, now it's really all on your back and the blocking scheme to really get what's out there, right? Get what's blocked, but also a little bit more. So when you pair Saquon Barkley with the Jalen Hurts, that in and of itself increases at least 200 yards for a running back. And if you pair Jahmyr Gibbs, we can go back through history and look at this. Like when you look at Michael Vick paired with Warwick Dunn had his best yards per carry average, 1,500 yard season when he was paired with Michael Vick. CJ2K was CJ2K with Vince Young. He was CJ 1,300 with everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So when you think about Gibbs with Goff, people saying, "Oh, there's no threat. Gibbs is going to have to give up." Gibbs is special because he can hit the backside defender, make him miss, and then cut it back up the middle of the field for a chunk play. Genty is primarily a front side ball carrier. So if you beat him to the spot, you have a greater chance of getting him down on the ground, which is why that number is what it is.
I mean, I just like, former running back Emory Hunt. I just love listening to you talk a ball, especially when it comes to the running back position. Thread that in as much as you can for sure. All right, let's go to Danny Brasco. Talk to me about your favorite AFC wide receiver or running back prop.
Yeah, I think this is one that you're going to like too, Sia. We've had our eye on Brian Thomas Jr. I'm all in on the Jags here. I like Liam Cohen, coach of the year too. I took in our SportsLine futures draft we're doing. So Jaguars are bust for me, guys. But Brian Thomas Jr. proved in his rookie campaign that he might be an elite receiver right away. I mean, you look at his numbers, 87 catches, over 1,200 receiving yards. He's already at the top of his class, but he actually didn't get that much volume compared to his peers. When Trevor Lawrence was on the field, he wasn't targeting him enough. In fact, he got 10-plus target games with Mac Jones at the helm when Trevor Lawrence missed time. But with Lawrence, he was outside the top 20 in routes run and targets. So I think you're going to see Liam Cohen come in and immediately change that and get him involved as much as possible. And like I said, even with that low volume share compared to his counterparts, he still got almost 1,300 yards. So I think this number is off. I think he can prove that he's an elite level wide receiver. And again, these season-long props imply that we're avoiding injury. So stay healthy, Brian, and do your thing. This number is one you can definitely go over.
Even if you don't like Trevor Lawrence or have never liked Trevor Lawrence as like an elite quarterback, which is me, I still think BTJ can get here. And oh, by the way, I just want everybody to know for Offensive Player of the Year, I do love Jamar Chase, and there's other great candidates, obviously Saquon and Derrick Henry and Bijan Robinson. Just want to point out that BTJ is 35-1, and he could absolutely explode. I like this prop quite a bit. I think also in fantasy circles, you might want to reach on BTJ because I think he's that guy. All right, Emory, speaking of themes, let's stick with that Jets theme. What's your over on Garrett Wilson?
Over 950.5 receiving yards. I mean, he's their only threat as a receiver, the one guy that you have to game plan for. What's unique about him, and the reason why I still like this, despite him being the guy that teams can kind of bracket or, go into a game plan saying, hey, we got to take him away, you can move him around the formation. He can play outside. He can play inside. He doesn't care about working the middle of the field. He shows he could take a hit and keep on trucking. And so I like him to go over this number. I mean, he already has chemistry with Justin Fields. They played at Ohio State. So does Jeremy Rucker. So does Josh Myers, the Ohio State Jets over there. But at the end of the day, him being the number one and a flexible option to be able to be moved around, I think he can get 1,000 yards, in my opinion, being the one option in the passing game on a perimeter at receiver, at least this season.
I was going to wait to give out. I have a prop. So I'm going to be on HQ later. I'm probably going to give this out on HQ, but I have a prop I was going to give out on the early edge tomorrow morning, which I still might. But I think I'm just going to give it out right now because we're talking about AFC receivers or running back over-unders before we get to the rest of the show, which we have so much more to talk about. Guys, there's no good conversation about Tyreek Hill. No one's talking about Tyreek Hill. Can I just tell you that his yardage prop is 975.5 receiving yards? Take the over. Listen, this guy is still maybe not in his prime, but Tyreek Hill, maybe coming out of his prime, is still an amazing receiver. And he almost got to this number with a bad season, averaging less than 5 receptions per game. He almost got to this number last year, where Tua only played 11 games. And the backup quarterback situation was Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle. He could sail over this so easily, in my opinion. I do want to get your reaction because I think this number is low because the sentiment about Tyreek Hill is so like in the basement that we're just not seeing the number that we should be seeing. And I will say this, at 22-1 to lead the league in receiving yards, I might want to sprinkle that one too. But again, let's assume a healthy Tua. But even if Tua gets hurt, I do think Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers, probably Zach Wilson, is in a better position to feed Tyreek Hill than what they had last year. And this defense for the Dolphins is not going to be very good. So when you want to talk about negative game scripts and a primary target or a co-primary target with Jalen Waddle, he's going to get fed. Emory, your thoughts here?
It's the same argument you just made for the running back in Gibbs not only need 9 carries to get 100 yards. It don't take much for an Olympic sprinter to get over 100 yards a game, right? So Tyreek Hill is just one low crosser away from ripping off a 75-yard reception for a touchdown, right? So I'm with you. I'm taking this over because when you think of Tyreek Hill, people just kind of view him as, oh, he just catches a deep ball here and there, and he's a touchdown dependent player. But when you look at his career, you're like, this is a future Hall of Famer that he's been putting up Antonio Brown numbers consistently. It's crazy when you think about that, and you don't think of Tyreek Hill in that regard as a well-rounded receiver. And obviously he's going to have these fast guy problems, hamstrings, ankles, all that stuff like that, right? But for the most part, when you have someone like this, it doesn't take much for him to hit this number because he's not one that needs 12 catches for 89 yards and you kind of hope like a Mike Evans type 1,000-yard season. This could be done if everybody's healthy by like week 11. You know what I'm saying? That's how dangerous he is.
Absolutely true. Mike or Danny, anyone want to weigh in on this before we move forward?
I'll weigh in to say I don't like the Dolphins at all.
Yeah,
I think they could win as few as 4 games this season, but I think they're going to have the ability to throw the football. But what I could see happening here is what I'd love to bet on if you could find a market or someone would like to create it for me. Tyreek Hill to not be on the Miami Dolphins at the end of the season would be my favorite bet.
Yeah,
the guy's getting traded mid-season this year.
Yeah,
and that could potentially help the bet depending on where he goes.
For sure.
Certainly, the team trading for him is probably going to be a winning team that's going to need presumably Tyreek Hill. So I feel like injury is the only way he doesn't get this, which is also possible. Danny, go ahead.
I agree. The number is way too low. You're betting on his persona. He took on a leadership role at the beginning of last season, and the season came off the wheels, and he abandoned that leadership role. He went right back to the old same, egocentric Tyreek Hill. So you're betting on him not to give up on this team, on himself. But I do like the trade prospect there because he might give up and say, I'm not doing this anymore. This organization stinks. We're not going anywhere. I'm sick of losing. He's a guy that'll just do that and let his ego come first. So incredible receiver, but I do agree. If he gets traded, this is cashing, and the number is way too low. You bet on the personality, really.
Yeah. And if you're afraid of the injury or him checking out, then just play the upside, which is that most receiving yards, or maybe try a ladder situation, or frankly, take his receiving yards over. While Tua is healthy, it'd probably be depressed by 5 or 10 yards too many. I'm going to be looking at week 1, week 2, when I'm looking at NFL props to put on SportsLine. I'm going to be looking at Tyreek Hill overs for sure. All right. Before we get into the division winners, I do want to talk about the MVP. We know the AFC is absolutely loaded. Part of the reason for that is 4 of the top 5 MVP candidates happen to be AFC QBs. We're talking Lamar, we're talking Joe Burrow, we're talking Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Emory, I'm going to start with you. When you're looking at the MVP market, do you think it's one of these AFC guys?
Yeah, it's to me, it's Lamar Jackson. I mean, at the end of the day, threw 41 touchdown passes last year, and I've never seen a situation where, you could name all of his interceptions and legitimately say that wasn't his fault. Mm-hmm. So this man really was out there throwing 41 touchdowns and no picks and almost hit 1,000 yards rushing. And this is something that he can do every year. It's crazy. It's like he's really the Steph Curry of the NFL in terms of what you expect him to do every year, which is insane in and of itself. If Patrick Mahomes is the new Brady, that he always ends up winning in the end, Lamar has to be the Steph Curry in terms of the stuff he does that is abnormal is now seen as normal. So you expect him to rush for 1,000 yards. You expect him to throw for over 30 touchdown passes. I mean, as long as he's out there, Burrow won't make the playoffs. He hadn't made the playoffs every time Lamar has been healthy. So that's one thing we get from Lamar being out there for a full season. But even if he's out there for a full season, he's going to be in the mix.
Yeah, you were doing that comp with Steph Curry, and all I could think of was LeBron. That's who. Because it's just, I don't know. I won't take the analogy any further, but I think that's a good comp regardless. Danny, you agree with the Lamar sentiment?
Emory stole my homework, man. Every single one of those interceptions bounced off a receiver, just completely wasn't a receiver, gave one away to the opposing defender. He had 119.6 QBR and he didn't win the MVP. Voters have to be feeling like, man, did we snub him? Did Josh Allen deserve that one? I think maybe you see a flip here where maybe Allen has an incredible season where he deserves it again, but Jackson gets it because they already snubbed him last year. And he's putting up video game numbers every year. Emory said it well. It's got to be Jackson.
Mike, you're the one dissenter here on Lamar Jackson, which means, of course, you're going to pick your favorite player, Jaden Daniels, right?
Right. Look, I'm back on Patrick Mahomes here, guys. I think Lamar is the most deserving. I think Lamar is truly the MVP. It's kind of like college football. I know this is an NFL show. Sia, we do so many shows together. I can't resist my either cross-sport, cross-league references. But in the days of NIL and enhanced conferences in college football, not all schedules are created equally when you look at the Big Ten and the SEC. That's the case in the NFL as well. Patrick Mahomes gets 7 primetime games this year, tying an NFL record. As much as this is a stats-driven thing, it is still a little narrative-driven as well. Lamar got snubbed. Lamar gets 4. How does Lamar Jackson get 4 primetime games and Patrick Mahomes, with Taylor Swift announcing a new album today, getting 7? The Kansas City Chiefs, everyone's got a little fatigue, except for the machine that makes money off of the Kansas City Chiefs. They're in 7 primetime games. The international game, they play on Christmas Day. Like, what else can you say other than he's going to have the opportunity? And if they're going to have success and win a 10th consecutive division title, now more than ever, it is on Patrick Mahomes' shoulders. The schedule is tough. The team is not as dominant. The division is tougher. I just think that he's going to have to play all of the games this year. He's going to play every game. Every game's going to matter for this team for postseason purposes. And that's going to allow him, an additional game basically of stats from where he was and where his baseline has been really over the last 5 years. So I think that it's tough to pick which one here. Like, if Joe Burrow and the Bengals go upset the Ravens, and win that division, it's clearly Joe Burrow's award. Josh Allen, I think the Bills aren't going to have to run him into the ground late in the season. I think he could lose it on that. So for me, it does come down to kind of where you're at in that AFC North. But to me, the outlier is still Mahomes getting to play 7 primetime games in a very difficult schedule. Should I remind you, Patrick Mahomes gets head-to-head games with Justin Herbert to start the season, and then Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, all 3 of those guys within the first 4 weeks of the season. He also plays Jaden Daniels. He also gets a head-to-head with Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, plays the Dallas Cowboys. The schedule is just there if you buy into this being narrative-driven at all.
Yeah, I will say those narratives you really get sort of solidified towards the end of the season. I mean, Larry's mentioning the big Josh Allen run, which honestly on prime time, it wasn't prime time. It was a featured game, I believe, a 4:00 game where, if not for that run, Lamar Jackson probably wins the MVP, which is ridiculous to say that it gets isolated to one play that everybody happens to see. By the way, Philip Terraza says over 1.5 Taylor Swift references is -120. You just made the one. I just made the second one there. And I do want to mention, just to indulge me for a second, speaking of Taylor Swift and the Kelsey brothers, The Early Edge is up for Best Male Hosted Podcast. They're in the finals. We are in the finals against a number of great podcasts, including the Kelsey brothers. I don't know, what's the podcast name? It's Withering Heights, New Heights, Heights something. It doesn't matter. Vote for The Early Edge. If you get the email to follow up and vote for The Early Edge, Best Male Hosted Podcast. All right, we got to get to division winners. We got to get to some playoff questions, some AFC championship questions. We kind of covered one of the divisions already. I kind of jumped the gun on the AFC South. So we can touch on that later. Let's start with the AFC East. Since we're talking about Josh Allen, we're talking about the Bills. This one seems like, I know we have one dissenter here, and we'll get to him last. But Danny, this one seems like, hey, -325. I'm not betting that, but I'm also not betting anybody else. Your thoughts?
That's exactly it. This to me is an unbettable division here. By the way, I love the Withering Heights reference. Still chuckling about that.
Heights something.
But yeah, you can't lay minus 325 for a future. That sounds like the worst bet ever. So I'm just going to give you my prediction, and that's that they run away with this division. It's really gotten soft in the last years. Maybe some of these other teams can outperform expectations, but I love the roster construction of Buffalo. They have that vaunted offensive line that's going to push the pile. We talk about how good the Eagles were with the tush push. I mean, the Bills are just as good with their physicality in the trenches. And I'm really high on their defense. I think they might have the best linebacker core in the league with Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Joey Bosa, who actually looks really good in camp. And even some good guys, Shaq Thompson, other guys down the depth chart. I think that the grittiness of the secondary is going to lead them to a lot of wins. And we already covered the schedule, how easy it is. So they walk through a schedule. They get an either number 1 or number 2 seed potentially, and they easily take this division without competition.
Yeah, we'll get to 1 seed in just a few minutes. Mike, anything to add to Danny's argument?
My only argument would be it's still bettable. Look, this was 260. We were talking about it on HQ a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when the line was minus 260. I have it at 80%. 80% is minus 400. I think that they have an 80% chance of winning this division. And, I really, source of value for me comes actually from the Patriots and Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are correctly seated here at 3rd in the division, but I don't think that they should be plus 850. I think they should be plus maybe 1250, probably where I would also make the Jets. And I would have the Patriots lower than plus 550 here. I think it's very clearly the Bills. And it's almost exclusively because I'm very down on the Patriots and the Dolphins.
Well, Emory, Mike just alluded to the fact that the Jets at plus 1,800 is probably too long of a number. What I love about you is you're not scared. Talk to me about your winner of the AFC East.
Definitely the New York Jets. I've seen the Jets beat Buffalo with Zach Wilson at quarterback, right? And so, and there's no knock against Zach Wilson, but they have a better quarterback now in Justin Fields. The offensive line of the Jets and the defensive front of the Jets and the secondary of the Jets matches up extremely well versus Buffalo. I think the Jets at worst are the second best team in this division. Collectively, we're talking offense, defense, special teams. And when you match physicality with a team that's been a bully, the only way to beat a bully is to punch a bully right in the mouth. The Jets have shown they can do that over time. And now I think people are seriously underestimating Aaron Glenn's imprint. Y'all love Dan Campbell, you'll love Aaron Glenn. And the type of intensity of the program that I've witnessed today, but also have seen from the acquisitions they've added and how they played their preseason game and how they opened up tackling, the certain drills they did. Like, this team is going to be the AFC version of the Detroit Lions, and they have the right mindset at key positions: D-line, quarterback, corner. This is a team that I think wins this division. There's always a surprise every year, some worst to first. I think the Jets are being criminally underrated this season, especially in the AFC East.
And just to be clear, you were at Jets camp earlier today?
Correct.
I love that. Jets camp, comes home, catches the early edge, and is just an incredible analyst on the show.
And it was a great thing to see the Jets offensive line versus the Giants defensive front, and the Giants offensive line versus the Jets defensive front. And it was like a tug of war, and it was a good battle for both Jets and Giants for their young players on the line of scrimmage, because this is what you need, So Armand Membo, he found out how good Brian Burns was today. You know what I'm saying? And so you need that in order to get better. So I'm excited to see tomorrow the joint practice. This time it'll be in East Rutherford.
All right, let's go to the AFC West, where we have another, not as big of a favorite, certainly, but certainly the Chiefs are going to be on most people's minds if they're going to bet this market. Interesting, Mike, your Chiefs are minus 118. They're not usually that bettable. Denver and the Chargers trailing at plus 310. Denver's, I don't want to say they're sneaky. Everybody knows Denver's good, right? But if I was going to pick somebody, it probably would be Stay Away or Denver at plus 310 here. We got the Raiders, by the way, at plus 1,700. Mike, are you on the Chiefs?
I'll be on the Chiefs here. Just like the Genty prop, this one for me falls firmly in the category of I'll pay to find out. At minus 110, I will essentially pay to find out here. I think the number should be minus 140, minus 150, very similar to where the Baltimore Ravens are in the market. We will talk about that division next. But but that's kind of the number that I think Kansas City should still be at. You're routinely used to having to pay minus 200 here. And not a lot has changed on the side of Kansas City. It's not like they lost Patrick Mahomes. It's not like they lost a bunch of key pieces. It's just the division getting a little better. And right. And I think that that's an interesting thing here. It would be a different story if Kansas City had lost a bunch of pieces and going through a coaching change, something like that. That would cause a little concern for me. But here at the price point like this, again, it's just a massive discount on one of the best teams that we've seen in a long time in the NFL. And all the key pieces are still there and in place. Until that changes, I will pay to find out here on Kansas City.
Emory, you're on the same page here. Pay to find out.
Pick a quarterback in that division that you trust in the big game situation. And the big game here is being versus Kansas City. There's not one. So, yes, give me Kansas City.
How dare you? Bo Nix is no, I can't make that argument. I love I love the Bo Nix, Sean Payton combo. I really do. And I think we're going to see good play even from the offense. I love the defense for Denver, but that's a really good argument. When we're talking about fading teams, supporting teams, you look at the quarterback position first. And Danny, that's why yesterday we talked about fading the New Orleans Saints. Like, what's going on at the quarterback position there, right? Talk to me, though, because you're not on Kansas City, Danny.
Yeah, as Emory said, who else do you trust in that division? I'm glad I was muted because I gulped really loudly. But it's gonna have to be Herbie fully loaded, baby. Give me Justin Herbert and the Chargers to somehow make this happen. I like how Mike said pay to find out, right? It is a good price on the Chiefs, but I'm buying into Jim Harbaugh football. I think this guy really just put his brand and his identity in the right way on this club, and they might be able to bully people. This is trench warfare. I think their style of old school gritty ball is going to work and is going to hurt people. It's going to suck to play the Chargers a lot of the time. We're just going to go down and get one in a nasty way. I think the defense is a little bit underrated. Derwin James is a stud back there. They got some improved corners. And Denzel Perryman in the middle tackles everything that moves. So I do think slightly defense is slept on. The big problem I have is that down goes Rashawn Slater again. They just paid one of their best offensive linemen. And with him, Joe Alt, Mekhi Becton, who they had, they might have had the best offensive line in the league and really been incredible with that bully ball. Also down goes Najee Harris. So now it's down to Emory Hampton and whoever else they want to put at the running back position. And it looks like Joe Alt's going to slide the left tackle. I couldn't be higher on Joe Alt. Big ask for him to cover the blind side now. I'm betting that he can do it, man. I think even without Slater, this offensive line is incredible. And Omarion Hampton has a chance to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I think they're going to bully teams. I think their defense is slept on. I think the Chargers have a chance, again, in a division that's getting more competitive, that could cannibalize itself, that even Mike, who's back in the Chiefs, thinks might have slightly down year. The Chargers are live at plus 310.
I'm sorry. When you say bully ball, I think of the Denver Broncos. Truly, I think that defense is so good. Their interior on both sides of the ball, I think, is so good. I think Bo Nix is good enough under Sean Payton's tutelage. Get the ball out fast, get that offense churning. We'll see what happens with R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins. I think the Broncos, we're going to get to this in a second. I think they could. They're not going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, I don't think. But I think that AFC Championship game, listen, people are going to take this and show it to me 3 months later. I think we could see a Ravens Broncos AFC Championship. We're going to actually get to our AFC Championship game in a second. That's how much I like the Denver Broncos, whether they win the division or not. But I do kind of like that plus 310. All right, let's move forward. We got everybody's pick. Yeah, let's go to the AFC North. This is another one where we have a pretty prohibitive favorite for very good reason. This line just escalates more and more at BetMGM. It's now minus 160 with the Bengals being plus 260, the Steelers plus 550, and the Cleveland Browns plus 3,300. Emory, I mean, we all like the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl. I thought the same thing last year, and I said it yesterday. I think the Ravens probably should have beaten the Bills and would have beaten the Chiefs and could have beaten the Eagles. That's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda, but you're taking the Ravens here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's process of elimination. Bengals, no defense. Steelers, not really trusting Arthur Smith's play calling. And the Browns don't have enough weapons on the perimeter to really go toe-to-toe. Their defense would be solid. But if you could take the Browns defense and Steelers defense and give it to the Bengals offense, now you got a challenger. If you take Pittsburgh's defense and give it to the Browns offense, hey, they could be so there's no one is as complete as Baltimore. I will say this though, Baltimore better get their backup quarterback situations straightened out because Cooper Rush and Devin Leary are not it.
Cooper Rush isn't terrible.
Listen, they need to get better. In their preseason, they were 5 of 16 and 2 picks combined.
Fair enough. I mean, Cooper Rush has done it before in big spots, at least to be like here's what I'm saying. There's a lot of backup quarterback situations that I think are like borderline hilarious. And I don't find Cooper Rush to be in that particular category. But I hear you. If you're going to be a Super Bowl team, you got to have a good backup quarterback as well, especially with Lamar taking some hits. Mike McClure, is this a bettable number at -160?
For me, it is. It started at -120. It should be -200 at a minimum for me. And look, I know that that's maybe an aggressive statement. -200 is 67%. I personally believe it's between 65 and 70% for the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're the best team in the NFL. I think they're the most complete team on both sides of the football in the NFL. And I think they have a huge edge over the teams like the Steelers and Browns within the division. The Bengals, while they have the offensive skill set to keep up, I worry about them defensively still. And I would also say, which is always an interesting comment to make, but I think the Cincinnati Bengals are totally fine sneaking in as a wild card. Like that would be a good outcome for them. They would feel comfortable in that role. They're the team that, as long as they're in, as long as they have a seat at the table, they're fine with that. The Ravens, meanwhile, they're going to go and try and win every single game in the regular season. They're going to try and win every single game throughout the entire year. And it's not that the Bengals won't be trying. It's just not the reality, right? So I think that there's still a large gap here. I need to see a lot more from Cincinnati. First of all, they've got to stay healthy and they've got to be able to play defense. But I personally think the Ravens, I mean, look, I think they were the best team in the NFL last year too. And I think they have only gotten stronger this year with the roster that they have. I like the Ravens here, and I would still play it at -160.
Danny, I totally agree that this should probably be, and again, I do respect the Steelers and the Bengals, but I think this should be closer to -200, and that's why it's gone from -120 to now -160. By the time we get to the season, this could easily be -180. Before you comment, though, Jeff Stenberg says, by the way, Jeff Stenberg likes Drake May's over passing yards. He's mentioned it a couple times, 3,275.5. But he says, whenever someone mentions Omarion, I think of early 2000s R&B. Of course, that's B2K. Love the shout out there. And Joe Neuenfeld is reminding me that apparently my big takes today are I love Bo Nix and I love Cooper Rush. And I'm not sure I want that to be my rep for the show, but pretty funny stuff. Danny Brasco, it's the Ravens, right?
Yeah, Ravens got this icebox where their heart used to be. Just cold. They're going to cold sleep this division. I think it's Ravens by unanimous decision here for us. And the guy said it all. Really, the only hole in them was the secondary to start the year. And I kept telling everyone, screaming from a mountaintop, like, they are not this bad. They were really just terrible. They couldn't stop anybody in the pass game. But I knew they weren't that bad. I think it was Zach Orr's first year defensive coordinator woes. He's a smart mind, and he got it together. And now they add some more pieces to that backfield, the defensive backfield. Malachi Starks, awesome draft pick. You already have Kyle Hamilton, might be one of the top 5 safeties in the league. Wiggins really improved his game. Humphrey's still a dangerous playmaker back there. That was the one place you could attack them. I think they've solved it. And they added Ronnie Stanley to the offensive line, too, in left tackle position. So even more, protection for Lamar. What can't the Ravens do this year is the question. I think they run away with this division too.
Yeah, I mean, didn't they also add Jair Alexander?
I can't believe I forgot Jair.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, he's a stud.
I mean, yeah, even if he's 80% of and they got rid of some guys that were getting taken advantage of as well. So they've replaced parts that are just much better. This team is so good. Okay, well, we're all on the Ravens. I don't think we can really make a cogent argument for any of the other teams here. We already talked about the AFC South, and Danny, you've talked about the Jaguars on a couple of different occasions. Mike, let's just recap real quick. You supported the Jaguars at plus 310 to win the AFC South, correct?
Yeah, not one that I bet. Probably couldn't talk me into betting it unless I was catching plus 450. But I don't think that the Texans should be a -105 favorite. Personally, yeah. I think they should be the favorite. I think it should be in that plus 120 to plus 140 range. Process of elimination here. If I had to play something, it would be the Jags. And the reason for it is I don't trust the health on the Texans side. They have a brutal overall schedule, the way some of those games work out. And I think that there could be some locker room issues and things like that if this team isn't tracking to, go have a 10+ win season.
And Emory, just to recap on the AFC South, you were on the Texans.
Yes, trustworthy defense, trustworthy quarterback in Stroud. Even in a down year, they made it to the divisional playoffs. So, that's a good football team. I ain't mad at the Jags. I ain't mad at the Colts. The Titans probably a year away. They need a little bit more talent around Cam Ward. Jaguars are frustrating because on paper, they should be what we're talking about with the Texans. Colts, you got to be able to sell me on Richardson for 17 games in order for me to fully buy in, because that's the issue with them. And so right now I have to go to Texas because at least I've seen them do this before.
I think even if Anthony Richardson just doesn't work out this year, or gets injured, or just kind of falls on hard times as a quarterback, I hate to do this because I just supported Cooper Rush and Bo Nix. I don't think Daniel Jones is that bad. Yeah, he's got pieces.
He's bad. Like, don't. 15 touchdowns. His breakout year was 15 touchdowns. What? Like, come on, man.
That's not great.
Take it from a Giants fan. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Listen, he's got a good running game. It's good enough offensive line. The defense is very, very solid.
He's going to be the anchor. He's going to be the liability. And
yeah, that's true. There's no question he'll be the liability. It's just a matter of how much he anchors that team down. Like I said, I like the Texans.
You have a weird obsession with big quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, you're probably right about that. Let's talk about the playoffs. Speaking of the Colts and Jim Morris Sr., the playoffs. Who will win? Or who will win the AFC? Who's going to be the number 1 seed? I think I have an idea of where you all are headed with this. Mike, I'm going to start with you.
I think it's one of 2 teams, and I think we've all kind of nailed that down. For me, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. I just think they're the best team in the NFL, the most complete. I think they have a pretty big edge in division as well. You look, it all comes down, their season in terms of winning the number 1 seed, in my opinion, is going to be really the first few weeks of the season when they have all those difficult matchups. And if they can get through that when they're super healthy, I think they run away with it. So I'm going to try and quickly pull up the schedule because I don't know if we have the graphic for the Ravens schedule, but let's listen to the Ravens schedule. Number 1, week 1, Bills, week 3, Lions, week 4, Chiefs. Like those games right there. If they win those games against the Bills and the Chiefs, they're running away with the number 1 seed. Like their schedule gets dramatically easier, all backloaded in terms of some of those divisional games outside of week 2 against the Browns, which is why I said they'll be minus 200 in division when they win the week 2 game against Cleveland. You look at the schedule, it's so difficult there in the first stretch. You see the Rams, a playoff team. After that, like they're going to run the table on that second half of the season.
Yeah, after their bye week, which we see on the screen here, thanks to Ben, is week 7. There's not a lot of, granted, there are tough games at the beginning of the season, but there's not a lot of super tough games for a team the caliber of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah. And you talk about like, if you're them, when would you want to play the Bills? For me, I want to play them in week 1 when I know that Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and that defense are healthy, right? Like, I don't want to play them week 14. Like, same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. If I have to go to Arrowhead, let's go to Arrowhead in the middle or the end of September. Let's not do that in January when we're dealing with the fatigue of the season, right? So I think it's favorable. I like the Ravens here.
Yeah, it's interesting. That reminds me, it's part of the reason, this is kind of off topic, but week 1, I like the Niners at Seattle minus 2.5. And I know they gotta travel to Seattle and all that stuff. But when I know Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy for a game and that defense is, even a Mike McDaniel defense has to scheme for him, I'm going to be more inclined to take San Francisco in a spot like that. More on that later on the early edge. But okay, so Danny, we got 1 vote for the Ravens. What's your vote?
Yeah, the odds were both plus 340 for a reason. Mike said it. It's one of 2 teams. I'm going to go with the other one. I'm flipping a coin. And I'm going to take Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to get it done. I really believe this is their year to take that 1 seed based on the schedule that they can walk through. The toughest games they face, Mike already pointed out that Ravens week 1, that's a Bills home game. They see the Eagles at the end of the year at home. They see the Chiefs in the middle of the season at home. All of their toughest games are in Buffalo, where they have a decided advantage a lot of the time, especially if it's, weather, if it's, gust and winds and the snow's coming down. And then outside of that, they have maybe one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So I really do believe that instead of laying, the juice on over 11.5 wins, you could instead take 13, 14 wins even, or take the Bills to get that number 1 seed, whichever odds you can get better, the alt win total or the 1 seed. Because if they grab 13, 14 wins, I think it's like Mike mentioned, one of those Ravens matchups away from them being the 1 seed. Can they beat the Chiefs in that spot? Can, whoever wins this week 1 matchup might come down to that. So I'm going to take the Bills to do it.
And we see the odds here on BetMGM. Bills plus 220, Baltimore Ravens plus 375, Mike's Chiefs plus 475, and then a pretty big drop off to the Chargers and then the Bengals. I don't see the Broncos on that graphic. I need to see the Broncos. Okay, break the tie, Emory Hunt. Is it the Ravens or is it the Bills?
It's the Ravens. Listen, the Ravens should win all of their games, but we all know the Ravens will Raven a game up every now and then. They'll lay it all on the line versus Buffalo, come back and lose week 2 versus Penn State, and then they'll go on another run. Right? That's the Ravens' MO. We've seen this every year. They'll start out the season probably 2-2 with 2 games that, man, it was up 35-6. How did they lose 30-35? Well, weird things happen in the Ravens game, and then they'll go on this 10-game winning streak. They'll be the hottest team going in. So the Ravens, to me, will represent the number 1 seed. And as long as it's funny, because as long as Lamar Jackson is healthy, they're always in contention for that number 1 seed.
All right, let's move from the number 1 seed to the AFC Championship game. We'll close here unless somebody from the chat, maybe I'll look at some questions that you all have here. But here are the AFC Championship winner odds. Of course, we've got the Ravens and the Bills here, as Danny said, each at plus 340. And we got the Chiefs, the Bengals, Chargers. There are my Broncos at 14-1 and the Houston Texans at 15-1. But talk to me, gentlemen. Emory, I'm going to start with you. Who's actually going to play in the AFC Championship game? Again, it's a little unfair of a question here in August, but what are the 2 teams you'd be looking for?
Well, it's not unfair, see, because the Chiefs are already rubber stamped to be in the AFC Championship game every year. So it's about who's going to play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And so that's when the tournament starts, right? So for me, this year is going to be Baltimore. I think Baltimore gets a rematch of Kansas City in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. This time they'll remember to pack their run game and run the football against Kansas City, which they didn't do in that game. And everybody in the country just assumed that they gave up, 200 yards versus Buffalo the week before. Oh, Derrick Henry's going to have 1,000 yards in this ball game. Nope. Run the ball 2 times, and that's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So that's Ravensing a game up. But I think this year we get Baltimore and Kansas City in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, Chief is pretty excited about that, Mike McClure. And he's probably going to be excited about your take as well.
Chief knows that Chief knows what he's doing that week in January. We all do. We're all watching the Kansas City Chiefs in late January, no doubt. However, the Ravens get it done. The Ravens are the best team in the NFL. You want an unbiased take? My dog's name is Chief, and I'm telling you, the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They're going to beat the Chiefs this year. The Chiefs are still good. Patrick Mahomes is going to do incredible things. They may not even have they won't have home field advantage. I'll take it a step further. They will not have home field advantage this year. They will have to go on the road. The Ravens are the best team. They beat the Chiefs.
I mean, I agree, and I will say it again. I think the Ravens were the best team last year as well. They should have beaten the Bills, in my opinion, which is funny because I think the Bills should have beaten the Chiefs. Either way, I really like the Ravens again this year. Danny Brasco, you've got a slightly different take, right? You like the Ravens, but there's another team in there for you.
There is. I think maybe they can unseat the perennial dance partner in the Chiefs here. And as Chiefs started barking, my dog Hercules started going crazy too. He's down here. He was too tired to jump up on the table. But I think the old dogs, actually, the guys that have never been able to just get through that wall, right, and break through that ceiling, can do it to the Chiefs. I'm going with the Ravens and the Bills to be in the AFC Championship game. And I think these are the 2 best teams right now in the AFC. We're in August, so, say what you will there. But I think they can do it, man. I'm seeing a world where the Super Bowl hangover is very real for the Chiefs. And in fact, if you look at historical trends, that's the case for the loser of the Super Bowl. I think the perception a lot of times is that the winner starts slow, but the loser normally starts slow. So if they start slow, man, maybe these guys end up in the dance and the Chiefs find themselves without a partner. I like Bills Ravens.
All right. I'm going to try to find an exacta over at BetMGM with the AFC Championship being the Ravens and the Denver Broncos. It sounds like clickbait, but I Broncos are going to be my team that I'm going to be completely ridiculous about. There is a question in the chat, and we've wrapped up. We're going to do this tomorrow, by the way, for the NFC again at 3:00. Always know that this is going to be in your podcast feed as well as living on the SportsLine YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to this channel. We're at 111,000 subscribers, but let's get to 120 by the time we get in maybe the middle of football season. That would be great. But Brasco, this is a question for you. Nola Face says, I like Brasco's Houston over 3.5 division wins from a while ago. Thoughts on them beating Tennessee both times at plus 135? And then, Mike, I'm going to ask that question to you afterward to see if that's the play or if you should just like money line it 2 times in a row to get better odds in situations like that. Brasco, go.
Right. That's essentially the analysis, is that if you played the money line twice, would you say you parlayed those 2 money lines, hypothetically, would you be getting better odds than just playing them to do this twice here? So when do they play the Titans? Because that's really it. Like if they play them early, I think maybe you can get an expectation of what the line might be. But if they play them late, we really don't know where those teams will be and how steep the price tag might be. So I don't mind it. I mean, really, the play that I made here on 3.5 is that Houston has to get this done if they're going to win this division. They have to beat Tennessee twice, and they need to find a way to split the other 2. So, 4-2 is the minimum, I think, for a successful season for them. And Emory mentioned it. They had a down year, and they still had a winning season and won the division. So I think they can do that. I lean towards that instead of isolating the Titans, but maybe Mike can tell you where the value is.
Houston hosts the Titans week 4, and then they're at Tennessee in week 11. Mike, any thoughts on this question?
I need to see the price point again. I was looking at a couple of these lines. Yeah, I think you're probably better off just playing it now. They do play them kind of early and then late in week 11, but yeah, I would just play it now if it's something you want to play.
I don't have a lot of faith in Tennessee. Maybe we'll close here. Emory, I'm on the Tennessee under. I'm also on the Saints under. Those are 2 teams that I'd given out picks. Some alt picks there, alt wins, alt unders at plus money. What's your faith in Cam Ward considering the weapons around him and that he's a rookie?
I think his confidence in the way he throws a football, he has the mindset of never being out of a game. I think they can get 5 wins this year, straight up. But the problem is everybody in the AFC. We could make a case for legitimately everybody in the North, 3 teams in the East, 3 teams in the West, and the South is up for grabs. So, outside of Tennessee, so they would have their work cut out for them, but I do think they can get 5.
I did take their under 5.5. I gave it out on the early edge a couple of weeks ago at a pretty good plus money. And then the total jumped to 6.5. And you can get that under of 6.5 at minus 140. I think the minus 140 is a great number. I do not think the Titans are getting to 7 wins. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we close shop? Danny, Mike, McClure, Emory, we just covered a lot, some props, some division winners, obviously some win totals and some other MVP-related type questions. Danny, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to mention about my Chargers to win the AFC West is that the band's back together, baby. We got Keenan Allen back on the team. They've really struggled with the wide receiver position. They've been a little thin there. We thought Mike Williams was going to come back too. Then he kind of retired. Then he just said on like video game streaming that he might unretire. I don't know what the hell is going on with Mike Williams, but I do know that Keenan Allen's back in the mix, and him and Ladd McConkey make me hopeful. So it's not just ground and pound. I think the Chargers have weapons, and I want to reiterate that I'm high on them to make the upset, and I'm high on the Jacksonville Jaguars to do it too.
All right. I think we'll close shop with the Keenan Allen comment and the Chargers. A lot of people like the Chargers. I mean, there's just no question about it. I know, Mike, you talked about a month ago about how you like the Chargers, and when you were picking between Denver and LA to kind of emerge out of the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs, you were on the Chargers side as opposed to Denver. Any final thoughts when it comes to that?
Yeah, just look, I think you kind of by default have to lean one way or the other unless you're just very down on the Kansas City Chiefs. I trust Herbert just a little bit more. I like the offensive line generally there. As far as Bo Nix and what he was able to do, he was phenomenal there. I could see a little bit of a sophomore slump or a little bit of a step back. The book's out on him a little bit more in terms of how to defend some of it, but it's close. We're not talking about significant edges by any means. I just kind of lean to the Chargers and their style of play and just the upside if they're able to, capture it. I think Justin Herbert still has the upside if utilized correctly.
Certainly a primary worry as a Denver backer is the skill position unit. I just, that's not necessarily the best unit, but everything else, again, interior building from the inside out looks pretty good for the Broncos, but also for the Chargers as well. All right. I think we're going to close shop there. Again, this is your AFC preview. Tomorrow will be your NFC preview. Emory, go ahead.
One last thought.
Yeah.
This is how good the NFL is going to be this year. I think the worst team in the NFL who picks number 1 in the NFL draft for 2026, the worst team is going to have 6 wins.
Wow.
This is going to be super competitive, guys, across the board.
You think the Saints are going to get to 6 wins?
Yeah, no way.
Whoever, Saints, Titans. I think this is a team. Browns, 6 wins. There's a lot of everybody got better in 2025 draft. Was surprised at how good everybody is. I think we'll see a very competitive NFL season across the board.
Well, that's what makes the NFL so compelling, right? We got an actual salary cap, so maybe Major League Baseball should take some notes on how to run a league. Thank you, Emory Hunt. Thank you, Danny Brasco. Thank you, Mike McClure. And of course, thank you to Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. We'll see you again. We'll do this again for the NFC, where I'm sure everybody is picking the Commanders, my Commanders, to win the Super Bowl. So you might want to just skip the show. It's just going to be Commanders answers all the time. That's tomorrow at 3:00. Thanks for joining. Make sure you're subscribed to the SportsLine YouTube channel and the podcast on Spotify and Apple. See you next time on The Early Edge.